Well, thank you very much. And I think this is probably the most awesome kind of place to take after Pam and every other speaker before her has been utterly brilliant. And I think you have to say that we were there on the 30th of June in Guernsey when the world was shaken and the whole health world. Everything has been turned upside down. So it's been brilliant. So I want to take you back to 1995, and I was a diabetic doctor in my practice. And I used to say to the patients, I said, right, you've got to do your exercise. Every time I told them, they kind of looked at me in this kind of forlorn way, and they said, yes, of course I'd exercise. And then 6 months later, I said, how did the exercise go? And they said, well, you know how difficult it is. I don't like swimming. I don't like sport. I can't bear the gym. It's all so training. My legs hurt and everything. I said, well, try again. Yeah, no, I'll do it again. And 6 months later, and 6 months later, and their entire life, nothing changed. And then I went for a walk. And as I went for this walk, I went past Mr. Adams, diabetic. I looked at his house and I thought, I'm just walking past your house with my dog, and you're inside. I can watch your television. It's in there. And then Mrs. Jones, I went past her house as I went on this walk, and she wasn't doing anything. She was inside saying that sport wasn't her thing. And I thought, what is it that's stopping all these people from going out on a walk? And we talked to them and we found out that they were scared about going on a walk. They didn't want to be lost. They didn't think they'll make it. They didn't think they'd be able to climb over a stile. So I said, why don't we get patients to lead other patients on a walk? And so that's a good idea. So we started the first 6 walks in April 1996, and you've got 17 of them here. And there are 3,500 of them, and over 2 million people now have taken part in these walks. And it's simple. Patients lead other patients. We provide the insurance, we provide the training, and that's all they have to do. And these walks take place every week. And as we know, it's a social that keeps it going. It's a connection to place. So, what are we as human beings? Well, do you know only 50% of our cells belong to us? The rest are the ones that Mike talked about, those little tiny fellows in our gut that we've got to look after, care for, nurture, keep happy, because 50% of those actually are looking after us. Our genes only make up 1.5% of our genome, so the rest of those genes are all mistakes, things that happened in the past that didn't work. So we're a mass experiment, and we're left with 98.5% absolutely redundant. So we are just ongoing. Our energy supplied by an old little thing that was swimming in the sea. That's called the mitochondria. And that provides all our energy, as it does all of life. And viruses have come in through evolution, have deposited their viruses, and they've made up more and more of us. And so we've come together. And with these ancient bacteria, which you heard about with Mike and others, in fact, everyone was talking about it, what are we? That's what we are. We are a dog's dinner of complete mess, and yet we're perfect, because we've been working all the way through evolution to get the thing that works the best. So if we take 1,000 years for an hour, and go back 100,000 years, which is when our brains pretty much stopped developing, then that was 4 days, that's 100 hours. 4 days to 10 hours ago, which is 10,000 ago, we started agriculture. Then 4 hours ago, civilization. We were still outdoors, we were still active, we were still connecting together. And then just 9 minutes ago, things changed. It happened in the north of England. Blame them. The Industrial Revolution. We'll talk to Pam later. And I've known Pam for a long, long time, about 15 years, and she hasn't changed, and she's brilliant. So industrialization. So we stopped connecting to the outside, and we stopped our activity. It's got worse. We're now indoors. We're screen age now. 80 seconds. If you had a software program to design over 4 days, and then you were told in the last 80 seconds that everything has changed, the whole environment has changed, you've got to start again. You can't. You've done 4 days. We can't change. We're hunter-gatherers, period. That's what we are. Everything about our body is brilliant at hunter-gatherers, and that means our factory settings, our default is people, connections. We've been talking about that, community, family, friends, all of those things. The place, we've talked less about that, and I'm going to talk about that. It's got to be connected to what a hunter-gatherer likes. And then purpose, feeling loved, feeling valued, all those things that we heard about from Janet, really, really important. That's it, 3 Ps. We've got to have those together. But what's happened, not just in the north of England, but everywhere else, is the loneliness and isolation, people living now separate from others. The hostility of the environment stops people from going out. In fact, they don't even go out. They go to their car, and then they go from their car somewhere else. So they lose sight of their environment. and that lack of love, that lack of purpose. And what does that cause? That causes a fear. That causes a chronic stress. That's where the adrenal glands start pumping out adrenaline and cortisol. So let's look at the nature bit, the bit in the middle, the place. If you connect yourself to nature, as a hunter-gatherer, you're going to be looking for things which are shelter, water, a view, so you've got a view over, and there's got to be lots and lots of trees and plants which are all nutritious. When you have that, you become less stressed. And actually, I'm co-editing the Oxford textbook of Nature and Public Health. It's probably not your bedtime read. It's going to come out in December. But the privilege of that is 90 authors, professors from all around the world, all doing brain work and work on nature and how it affects us. And it is now irrefutable, the evidence about how nature connects to our brain and connects to ourselves. We become less stressed. We do more exercise. More people talk to each other when there's greenery around. If you've got concrete and graffiti, the next person you think has probably got a knife, and you avoid them. If it's a nice garden, the next person you see is a friend. So we have a connection completely different, and there's a lot of research on that. And then, of course, there's less noise and less pollution. So an experiment. Look at that picture. Think about it. Thoughts. Now look at that picture, which is computer animated. They put a few trees in there. Let's see what happens when they gave that to students and they gave them lots of puzzles to do. In fact, they did another group. That bottom one, they flashed the trees so quickly that they didn't see it, but their reptilian brain did. That's called the subliminal. And then there was another group where they talked to the person about the trees, the wildlife, the plants, that go, and the animals and things that go in those trees. So you had 4 groups, the top, the bottom, the subliminal, and the person. Let's see what her brain did. The one on the left, they did worse than when they had baseline. In other words, the test they did made their brain worse. The second one, the subliminal one, exactly the same as the other. So it's deep in our brain that we've got this connection to trees and wildlife. The one where they had a person, you started to get connection, and they did really well. So their brain improved concentration, the increased capacity of the brain when you're connected to nature. And even now, new research coming out from Europe showing that women who are pregnant, the further away they are from green space, the more detrimental it is to the baby and their pregnancy. So connections, and there are loads of other studies about that. So we've got things going wrong, chronic stress and anxiety. That leads to poor health behavior, diet, smoking, alcohol, and inactivity, and that creates more chronic stress, and you get this vicious cycle that goes through. And that causes inflammation. We've heard so much about inflammation today. It's a running theme all the way through. It starts at birth. It starts prenatally because of the stress that if you're not connected to your mother, you will start to get inflammatory responses already. And we know, of course, that that is the answer to all the problems that I have to deal with as a GP. So inflammation is the bedrock. It's the cause of causes, as was defined. So what happens when you become active? Well, when you become active, you get rid of something which is the biggest inflammatory in your, pretty much in your entire body, visceral fat. That bit. Quick breath in, everyone, because that is the fat used for temporary storage, because it's perfect. If you're throwing spears and you're running, where else would you want to keep your fat, which you don't need at the moment? Keep it around your middle. Have it around your arms. You can't get that spear down. You got on your legs, you'll be waddling around. So nature designed it to be around the waist, which is very good, but it's temporarily meant to be there. And if it's not there, then you get less inflammation. The adipose cells are different in visceral fat than they are in other things. When you exercise, what fat goes? Visceral fat. The orange, massive drop in visceral fat. Subcutaneous fat hardly changes. Patients come to me and say, this physical activity is useless. I haven't lost any weight at all. That's because the visceral fat is gone, doesn't weigh much, muscles increased, balance, subcutaneous fat's gone down a bit. So physical activity on weight loss, you have to do 250 minutes a week, a lot more than you would do otherwise. So reducing anti-inflammatories, as soon as you get exercise, you have anti-inflammatories. And then every time you exercise, you start to change something deep inside your body. The mitochondria, that old bacterium from the sea, 30 or 40 in every single cell. So this is a cell, this is the mitochondria in this cell. So you're all sitting there. You're not eating brilliantly. You're a little bit stressed. Mitochondria charged up. What happens? Nothing, because you're not moving. So your mitochondria are charged up. What happens if you charge your phone, overcharge? It gets warm because electrons are leaking out. And those electrons are called free radicals, and they're leaking out because you're not using it. And those free radicals start to damage the mitochondria and knock them off. Those free radicals go off to the telomeres. So you start to age prematurely, because the more you sit, the more the overcharged mitochondria are not able to discharge properly. So that's why the people standing at the back are looking lovely and young, and are getting younger, and all you lot sitting there are aging rapidly in front of my eyes. So you can get up if you want, and you can walk out if you feel offended. But what's happening, and those of you who are looking a bit smug saying, yeah, that's for the old people, it starts at 28. Okay, so anyone above 28, you're on a slippery slope down where more cells are actually dying than actually being replaced. When you become active, and poor diet is, and you're not physically active, good diet and not stress, sorry, it should be good diet, you're actually fine. You're kind of moving around, no more free radicals, because that potential difference around the outside is now being discharged. Little free radical comes out and it hits the telomere. The telomere is the end of the chromosome. Imagine a chromosome, it's got a bootlace at the end, and it's got a little rubber thing at the end there for the bootlace. So what happens, it stops it unraveling. But every time those telomeres divide, every time a cell divides to replace your cells, it gets shorter and shorter until eventually it's so short the cell can't divide anymore, and that really is the aging process. You start to get thinner hair, and you start to get thinner skin, and your muscles go. The more free radicals that are around, the quicker those telomeres shorten, the less likely you're going to get to 100 years old. We have got to get rid of those free radicals. We've got to keep moving. We've got to eat well, and we've got to be less stressed. And that's the end of the cell. That leaves loads of inflammation that comes out. So, health on one slide. You've got the problems at the top, which is fundamentally because we're hunter-gatherers and we've gone away from where we should be. That causes chronic stress, it causes stress hormones, poor health behavior, and then you've got this red, horrible bit, which is the inflammation, mitochondrial damage, telomeres, and then the mess at the bottom. Okay, forget about that, because that's just a bit of the end product. That's what I have to deal with every day. Health starts at the top. Let's stop that chronic stress. That's where we have to be. If we really want healthcare, it's got to be at the top there. We can go for health behaviors, but if you're in a stressed mode, you're not going to eat very well, you're not going to exercise very well. What happens if you exercise, get everyone in Guernsey exercising? Well, all the diabetics, because when you become a diabetic, that on the left is death from heart disease. So start at 1. If you're less than 3 hours a week of activity and you've got no diabetes, you get diabetes 3 times as much risk of having heart disease. So I give you ACE inhibitors, I give you statins, I give you aspirin, I give you everything else. If I got you to exercise, I'd bring you right back down again to normal. So what's the point of giving all these drugs when I can just get you walking? And then you'd be back again to normal. In fact, you're better than you were even if you had diabetes. So we've got to get to now people outdoors, and we start with the children. 4 generations in Sheffield, each generation got less and less scope for the child. From 6 miles, the great-granddad of Ed, down to Ed, who has 300 metres. And most children now aren't allowed out of their house at all. So where's all that physical activity going? It's going. Children are not active. So what have I done? Well, the health walks is great, but it wasn't getting the whole population active. Who are the best people? Who are leaders? Who are the people who can make the biggest influence? Children. They're much smarter than we are. Where are they? They were here. They've gone. We made a game. I set up a company to make a game. And that game, we put beatboxes on lampposts. And we gave out hundreds of thousands of cards. And we told them, just go and join up those beatboxes, join teams, and the more beatboxes you connect, the more you'll actually get points for your team. And it's fun. So this is one in East London. We've got some in East Sussex at the moment. We put these beatboxes all over around the schools. And if we can just look here, I'm not sure if it's going to work. Probably haven't got time to do that. Have we got that, managing to get that going? Nope. It's gone. Don't worry. We'll go back to the other slide. Basically, you get thousands of people taking part. We've got 38% of the entire population playing within 2 weeks. And when they start off, it's all about prizes. What happens afterwards is about exploring a local area, getting fit. They start to see the places where they live. They go down to the footpath and the woods, and their children take the parents and the grandparents to all these places. Spending time with friends becomes really important. This is a catalyst. It's a game that creates a catalyst of change behavior. Why does it need a game to do it? Well, we're doing that at the moment, but hopefully in 10 years' time, we won't need a game to do it because people will be doing it on their own. Here's our leader. She's in charge because she gets her mum. Because she loves it so much, she gets her mum to do it. And her little sister is going to come in, and then the grandparents come in because they want to go for a walk. So the whole family go for a walk for the first time. And we get so many emails. 600,000 people have now taken part just in 2 years on these games, from Belfast and London. We're out in Europe now as well. We're all over the place. The green gym, we will say to people, if we put a beatbox in the green gym here, which is conservation work, then you get triple points. We'll get 800 families turning up to the green gym. They've never heard of it, but they want their extra points. The children say, let's go. We don't know what it is, and they all start to take part. So we direct people during that 7 weeks to these different places. And the green gym was what I set up just after the health walks because I felt the environment was really important. And they're all over the country now. We've got about 200, I think, of the green gyms. Interesting on the green gym is if you take someone on a green gym, they do 4 hours of cardiovascular training. Take someone to aerobics and they do 20 minutes. Ask them what they did. Aerobics is all about my glutes and my pecs and my muscles and how good I am and how trim and everything. Green gym is we changed the water level so we can actually get water voles, and we got plants so we can get butterflies, and I met these fantastic people and we had lovely cake and we made some tea. All about the external. 4 hours cardiovascular training. 20 minutes was aerobics, but they thought that was health. The other thing wasn't anything to do with health. Health by stealth. The means to an end. Health should be a means to the end. The end is fun. Health is a way to get to fun. We collect data as well. For every time you swipe, you get data. So this is live. 39,000 people are playing in East Sussex at this very minute, and 500,000 swipes have taken place. But we can start to use that data to work on how to get more and more people active and connected. So, the story, we're hunter-gatherers. Chronic stress is the problem because we've dissociated ourselves from our roots. That leaves bad behavior, more visceral fat, inflammation, telomere shortening, and all the nasty inflammatory things going on. That causes disease. So to stop disease, we need less stress, which is going back to our roots again. And that's all about friends. It's all about family. It's all about nature. And it's all about feeling good for ourselves. Thanks very much.